हरे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा 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 श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा 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 श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा 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 हे राम नारायण वासुदेवा हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेवा
हे राम नारायण वासुदेवा हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेवा
हे राम नारायण वासुदेवा हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेवा हे राम नारायण वासुदेवा हे श्याम नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा।
श्री
कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा।
हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा,
हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा, हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी, हरि हरि। तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी, हरि हरि। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। हरि ओम नमो नारायण, ओम नमो नारायण। हरि ओम नमो नारायण, हरि ओम नमो नारायण। हरि ओम नमो
नारायणाय, ओम नमो नारायणाय।
हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय, हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी, हरि हरि। तेरी लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी, हरि हरि। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि। श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि, श्रीमन्नारायण
नमो नारायणाय ॐ नमो नारायणाय
हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि तेरे लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी हरि हरि तेरे लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि 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 ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय
ॐ नमो
नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि तेरे लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी हरि हरि तेरे लीला प्रभु है न्यारी न्यारी हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि हरि
नारायण
नारायण हरि 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 ओम नमो नारायणाय ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि श्रीमन्नारायण नारायण हरि हरि
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः
Welcome to Satsang. We'll start as always with a question that comes in advance and then open it up to any question that anyone here has. My brother is not happy with his professional and personal life, and he blames my father and me for everything. Due to this, there is always a hot argument happening, often which disturbs me and my mom. What should we do as we are unable to find a way out to resolve this everyday crisis? So right now we are in these beautiful days of Ganesh Utsav. So we celebrated Ganesh Chaturthi a couple of days ago. And next week, they'll celebrate Ganesh Visarjan. This is Ganesh Utsav. Now, Lord Ganeshji, who's sitting very beautifully back there, if you don't know what Lord Ganeshji looks like, the beautiful, beautiful image I have the wonderful opportunity to keep having darshan of, is the Lord, the God, of removing obstacles. This is what people worship Lord Ganesh for traditionally. We won't go into all of the details about that. We'll cover that on the 12th on Ganesh Visarjan. But I bring it up here because when you think about obstacles in life, if you ask most people, what are your obstacles? Okay, so Lord Ganeshji, these are his days. You're praying to Lord Ganesh. What obstacles do you want him to remove? Most people will give you something from outside. Oh, my annoying neighbor. Please tell Lord Ganesh to do something about my neighbor. My boss, my employees, my colleague, my in-laws, my whatever it is. Please tell Lord Ganesh to remove this obstacle from my life. The problem is, the obstacle isn't actually outside, just the projection of the obstacle. The real obstacle is in my mind. Outside, all you have is a guy or a gal who happens to be your neighbor, who happens to have certain habits. A guy or a girl who's your employer or employee or colleague who is just living out their own karmic package, who happens to have some issues that are difficult for you to handle. The obstacle is in your mind. And I mention this in response to this question because the question says, my brother blames my dad and me for everything. Therefore, there is always a hot argument. So, how many people does it take to have a hot argument? Right? Does one person who's confused or ignorant, can one person single-handedly create a hot argument? No. It takes 2 or 3 or 4, but at bare minimum it takes 2. But you see how the questioner here has made the exact same mistake that we all make. The problem is my brother. My mom and I are suffering. The problem is my brother. Okay. He may be the one who blames people in the family. In every family, or almost every family, there's some kind of blaming, guilt, issues. This is just part of the package of family dynamics. It's what keeps therapists in business. Really, I mean, it's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be worried about. The family is the place in which, when our brains are the most suggestible, the first 7-10 years of our life, they're the ones whose thoughts, behaviors literally write our subconscious self. So our subconscious self is created in large part by what happens during those years, those early years of life. They are the ones who were there, so naturally they are the ones embedded in our subconscious, which means that which they say or do impacts us much more than what other people say or do. A stranger on the sidewalk, as you walk by, could yell at you, "You are the reason. You are the reason for my problems. It's all your fault." What are you going to do? Anybody going to get in a fight with the guy? Anybody going to try to prove him wrong? You're going to cross the street if he seems really drunk and dangerous. Otherwise, you're just going to continue on. You're not going to be emotionally disturbed. You might think, met a crazy guy on the sidewalk today. But it's not going to emotionally disturb you in such a way that now you can't eat, you can't sleep, your blood pressure is rising, you need therapy. Because you understand it's not about you, it's about him. Clearly, you've never met the guy. You cannot possibly be the reason for his problems. But in families, because they are so deeply embedded in our own subconscious, because our whole identity is rooted around who we are in the family, who we are as a child to our parents, who we are as a sibling to our siblings. That's core identity issues. Am I a good son, a good daughter, a bad daughter? Am I the good sister or brother, or the bad one, the smart one, the stupid one, the one who does things, the lazy one? These are the identities we carry throughout our life. And so even when we're fully grown adults, one of our family members pushes a button, we turn on. There's your hot argument. Somebody down the street tries to push our button, nothing happens. But a family member does. Boom, we're on. And so it's important to realize that you are no more the reason for your brother's problems than you are the reason for the guy on the street's problems. Now, it doesn't mean you haven't done things to your brother. I am sure, I don't know how old the questioner is, but old enough to have sent in an email or a comment on Facebook. So let's say minimum of 15. Certainly during your 15 years of life, or your 50 years of life, or your 75 years of life, you've done things to your brother. Some of them may have felt good to him, some of them may have not felt good to him. Some of them may have come out of love and compassion from your side. Some may have come out of ignorance and greed or anger or confusion from your side. But regardless of any of that, you are not the reason for his problems. In the same way that he's not the reason for your problems. In the same reason that no one in this world is the reason for our suffering, other than our own minds. Doesn't mean people don't do things to us. Doesn't mean people don't abuse us and cheat us and betray us and harm us. But if I'm suffering from it inside, or I'm engaging in a hot argument, so my pulse is going fast, my blood pressure is up, I'm generating anger, poison inside me, that's because I've decided to do that. Instead of thinking about changing him, instead of asking, Lord Ganesh, could you please, do something about my brother, figure out, what do you need to do to ensure that there aren't any hot arguments? How can you not react? The Buddha spoke very beautifully about, rather than running after flames and trying to extinguish flames, Become a river. Because then when all the flames come to you or interact with you, they are automatically extinguished. Become a river. Become a river of peace, a river of love, such that whatever flame someone comes at you with, it automatically gets extinguished. So that becomes the prayer to Lord Ganesh, is not ki jada humko bachao se, free us somehow of this angry guy, but instead of that, free me of that within me which reacts when he blames me, that which within me which reacts when he says something. Let me become that cool river. Let me understand that he's in his own pain the same way the guy on the street is in his own pain. And as this one's brother, can I have love? Can I have compassion for him? But not at the risk of my own mental sanity. If what he wants is a fight, and that's why he's provoking it, and that's why he's instigating it, how can I not give that to him? Not as punishment to him, but as a way of me being free. It's not that he pulls my chain and I dance like a puppet. I don't have any control over what he does or thinks, but I do have control over how I react. In fact, that's all I have control over. So how can I become that river? And then help your dad become that river. Help your dad understand that he's not a failure as a father just because this son is having anger. Help your dad understand that he's done the best that he could. Doesn't mean it was always right. Nobody gets it right all the time. But clearly he did the best he could. And now whatever he can do to help your brother, of course, if he can do it, let him do it. It's what dads do. They help their children to the extent they can. So let him do that. But my guess is that what it sounds like is that your brother is reacting not to present moment situations that actually can be solved, but to past pain. And the problem with that is there is nothing you can do about it in the present. 5 years ago, you did this to me. 10 years ago, you did that to me. When I was 4, you did this to me. The dilemma with that is there is nothing you can do today. You cannot rewind history. You cannot do it differently. Other than acknowledging and apologizing, there is nothing you can do. And you've got to help your father see that. Because he's reacting because everything that your brother says makes him feel like, oh my God, bad father, bad father. Help him understand, not a bad father. He's not responsible for your brother's karmic package. We all come into this world with our karmic package. And as parents, our job is to take the seeds we are given in our children, to water them, to shine the sun on them, to nourish them, to nurture them. But we cannot change what type of seed that is. If we've been given the seed of an orange tree, as good parents, the best we're going to get is juicy oranges. Nice orange tree. Doesn't matter what we do, we are never going to get apples or peaches out of that orange seed. Because the seed has come into this world as an orange seed. And it's important to know that, no matter how much in your mind maybe you thought, oh, I would have liked to have grown this child into an apple tree instead of an orange tree. But you couldn't have done it. The only piece that's in your hand is to help that seed sprout and blossom and flower and grow and to become the best tree that they can of whatever seed they've brought into this world. If it's an orange seed, an apple seed, a peach seed, whatever it may be, as parents, all we can do is help that seed sprout and flower and blossom. Protect it while it's young and fragile. Give it a tree guard. Make sure the monkeys and the dogs and the cows don't eat it. But you can't change the type of seed. So help your dad see that. And become that river. And lastly, and this pertains to all of us who get provoked when people say things to us, is ask yourself, what is it in me that doubts me so much that when someone says to me, you're bad, you're a bad wife, husband, son, daughter, mother, father, whatever it may be, what is it that makes me doubt so much? You know, the example I always give about this is if somebody came up to me and said, oh my God, your purple mohawk is just the worst haircut I have ever seen. It's ugly, it's horrible, I cannot believe you've got that purple mohawk. It wouldn't impact me because I know I don't have a purple mohawk. So the idea of it being good or bad or ugly or beautiful is totally irrelevant because I don't even have a purple mohawk, and I know that. And so what it makes me realize if someone said that to me is either they're blind and they literally can't see, they think I have a purple mohawk, or they're not in their right senses. But either way, it's not going to create in me this sense of like, oh my God, I wonder what's going on with my hair. I wonder if I've got a purple mohawk. I'm not going to look for the nearest mirror and, just confirm I don't have a purple mohawk. I know I don't. But if someone says to me, you're selfish, you're arrogant, you're stupid, you're worthless, you're this, you're that. Wish I never married you. Wish I never gave birth to you. Wish I never met you. What is it in us that already believes that about ourselves and so gets triggered so much? Our job really needs to be to have so much clarity of who we are that if someone says something like that to us, it's the equivalent of the purple mohawk situation. It's the equivalent of, I know I'm not selfish or stupid or arrogant or worthless. I know who I am. And so while I may feel compassion and love and even sadness for the person who said it, because clearly they're not seeing clearly. Clearly there's anger in them, there's jealousy in them, there's pain in them. So I may feel compassion for them. But it's not going to make me feel triggered and upset within me. Because I know it's not true. And that's what on our spiritual path, when we talk about truth, that's the truth of who we are. And that's why it's so important to know the truth of who you are. Otherwise, whatever everybody says to you, you believe it. Oh, you're wonderful. Then we feel really good. Our ego expands. Somebody says, oh, you're horrible. We feel really bad. Oh, you're so smart. We feel really good. Oh, you're so stupid. We feel really bad. Like we have no idea who we are. We're up and down based on what other random people tell us about ourselves. And this is where wisdom and truth is so important. To know who I am. So that I'm not triggered when people say things that aren't true. But also with the honesty to know what my shortcomings may be. Which things are true. Which things are those I need to work on? And then if someone brings them up, to have the humility to say, yeah, I know that. I'm aware of that. I'm working on it. Thanks for reminding me of it. I'm so sorry that it came up today and you were a victim of it. I'm working on it. To have the humility to say that, if it's something that is true. But also to have the clarity to not be triggered when it's something we know isn't true. And that's the inquiry into truth. Before I take any of our other advanced questions, I'm happy to open it up if there are any questions that anyone here has. Yes.
I have got two small questions.
Okay.
I'm Nitan Patnaik from England
Wonderful.
and doctor profession. Two questions. One, there has been, during the last Kumbh Mela, I was watching almost every day in the Astha and Sanskar channel. It has been in my mind about the river pollution. When a lot of ministers, everybody used to come to Ganga for worship with a lot of milk, pots of milk, and beautiful saris
Yes.
and clothes and everything. But whenever I minutely examine it, when these products are offered to
Ganga,
animals,
yes, of course.
it pollutes the river.
Yes.
In my opinion, I think it is not worship, rather it pollutes the river.
So, great question. What's the second one?
The second one is, whenever we think about vegetarianism and non-vegetarianism, whenever we cut the vegetables, because I was just going through Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose, how the plants have their emotions.
Yes.
Whenever even any vegetable plants,
Yes, they feel it.
they
Yes.
feel it.
Yes.
And whenever we also consume yogurts, there are millions of bacteria who are completely live.
Yes.
So
Okay.
are they not harmless?
Great. Okay. So, two very, very deep questions of aspects of our culture that he's dissected very nicely. The first is people come to Ganga, they come to worship the river, the mother goddess in the form of the river. But they offer out of their devotion. They offer milk, they offer saris, they offer flowers, they offer so much. He says, to me, how can that pollution really be worship? So, when we first started doing the work that we're doing on Clean Ganga, people would say, yeah, people don't care, they come, they throw things in Ganga, don't care. But I watched it very carefully. And what I noticed, and especially coming from abroad, I would notice things very, very specifically. People would come, poor people, people who clearly had traveled very, very long distances, thousands of miles from across the country, coming by bullock cart, coming in auto rickshaw, coming walking. They would spend their last rupees, not on a meal, but to buy flowers for Ganga. And then when they offered the flowers to Ganga, they would offer the flowers in the plastic bag that the flowers came in. Now, one way of looking at that is they don't care. But when you go deeper, you realize, well, of course they care, because if they didn't care, they would have stayed home. And if they cared only a little bit, when they got here, they would have taken their last rupees and had lunch at Chotiwala rather than bought the flowers. So clearly they care. The dilemma is, and I'll take it deeper and deeper, but on the surface level, the dilemma is Mother Ganga is the purifier, the mother goddess who purifies our karma. And so to tell people milk and flowers pollute her, forget a plastic bag, is considered sacrilege. People say, what do you mean she can't handle this? Of course she can. If she can handle what I did in a past life, I mean, who knows? Maybe I killed somebody in a past life or 10 lifetimes ago. If she can wash that away, if she can handle that, Of course she can handle a plastic bag. Of course she can handle flowers. And this is where it was really important to tease apart the bhav, the feeling, the love, the devotion, which absolutely is pure, from the way that it's actually being practiced. The bhav, the love, the devotion for the mother goddess, with the very practical aspects that are impacting a body of H2O that is irrigating farms that feed a third of India, upon which 500 million people depend for their lives and livelihoods. And so this is where the education is really important. Yes, Ma Ganga can handle everything. Your bhav is beautiful. And the 500 million people who live downriver can't handle the plastic, can't handle the pollution. The fish in the river who swim into the plastic bag, they suffocate and die. The cows downriver who eat the plastic bag when it washes up on shore, they suffocate and die. And that slowly, slowly is how people change. Now, taking it another step deeper, you speak about things we offer in puja. Milk, saris. Now, whether we're offering it to Ganga, or we're offering it in abhishek in a mandir that's going to run out the gutter of the mandir outside, or we're offering it into a fire where it's going to be burned, the question arises, is this really what God wants? Does God really want our milk, our rice, our flowers, our saris, our ghee? I don't think so. I think that at a time when the population was much less, resources were much more, to offer items like this as a symbol of love and devotion and as part of a ceremony that purifies the air and purifies the soil was fine. But at a time in which tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of children are dying of starvation every day, where almost 1 billion people go to sleep hungry, I cannot imagine that God wants us to take milk and pour it into the river. I can't imagine that God wants us to take milk and pour it over God in the temple just so that it's going to run out the gutter outside. Or to take our rice and burn it. Now, to take a teaspoon of it, or 2 grains of rice as a symbol, bhog lagaya, right? We've offered it to God, and then to take the rest and donate it to the poor, I think would be a beautiful solution. So the bhav is maintained. A spoonful of the milk, couple grains of rice, and then you take the rest and you offer it to God in the form of the poor people. So I'm completely with you on that. With your second question, do vegetables feel pain? Or rather, if we know vegetables feel pain, how can we eat them? And why does it make it better to be vegetarian and vegan? So this is a great dilemma of living a nonviolent life. No matter what we do, we kill. If you get a cough, or a throat infection, or a sinus infection, and you take antibiotics, or even you take haldi, so it doesn't matter if it's the artificial way of dealing with it or the natural way of dealing with it. Either way, you're killing all those bacteria. Murder, genocide.
But that they are harmful.
Well, hang on. Depends. Depends what your bigger picture is. They're harmful to you. They're beneficial to each other. Depends what the goal is. Depends what our higher picture is here. So those bacteria killing them. And I don't know anyone, including the embodiments of nonviolence like Mahatma Gandhi, who would say, oh, don't take haldi for your throat because you really should let those bacteria live, and if it means you die, well, so be it. Because remember, harming yourself is also violence. We forget to include ourselves in the equation a lot. So we think, well, I shouldn't cause harm to anything else, so I won't kill the bacteria. I won't kill the mosquito that's got dengue or malaria or something horrible that's about to bite me. Well, but what about the violence to yourself of giving yourself a disease that could kill you? That's violence. And so this is the dilemma of the human birth of a commitment to nonviolence. With regard to food, but we choose ourselves. Because we understand deeply and implicitly that our life is worth saving. Even if it means we're killing bacteria, even if it means that we're killing a mosquito. But I would give you another caveat to that. Your life inherently is not any more valuable than the life of a mosquito if you're not using it in a helpful way. It's not just because you're a human you're somehow stamped more valuable than a mosquito or than a bacteria. It's only more useful if you use that which makes you human. Your compassion, your creativity, your ability for higher thinking, your conscience, your initiative, if you use that to help others. Otherwise, you aren't of any more benefit than a mosquito or a bacteria. With regard to vegetables, we know that they do feel something. There's absolutely scientific studies that show that plants absolutely have what you could loosely call a nervous system response. Not only to being cut, but to being yelled at. There's incredible studies of getting plants to grow with love, with good intention. And how much better they grow, how many more flowers they give, how many more fruit they give on their tree than those who are either not done anything for or those that are yelled at. So we know they feel, we know they respond. But on a continuum of consciousness level, they are less conscious than an animal. And you move up. So you sort of move up through the continuum of animals, plants to animals. We have to eat something. If we could live on air, it would absolutely be the most non-violent way. But at the moment, if you try to live on air, it's violent to yourself because you starve. So we have to eat something. So the question becomes, what can I eat that is the most non-violent? Fruit, vegetables. There are traditions, the Jain tradition, for example, doesn't eat any root vegetables. They don't eat carrots. They don't eat mooli. They don't eat onions. They don't eat anything potatoes. They don't eat anything that comes from the ground. Because if you pull a zucchini or a pumpkin off the vine, it doesn't harm the vine. The vine is still alive and doing great. If you pull an apple off an apple tree, hasn't harmed the tree. But if you uproot a carrot or you uproot a potato, the whole plant comes with it and it disturbs the whole dirt and all of the bugs that lived there in the dirt. And so they don't even eat those. And this is a personal choice of how far am I prepared to go? What can I do that A, takes care of my own body, that isn't violent to me, and that is as non-violent to the world as possible? So this is why we're vegetarian. It's why many of us choose to be vegan. On a personal level, I'm vegan when I'm not in this ashram. Here I drink the milk because our cows are treated really nicely. There's no violence there. They keep their babies. The babies drink the milk. We take what's left. Nobody gets any injections or steroids or anything like that. Nobody's hooked up to any milking machine. Nothing like that. And when they stop giving milk, we keep them. We run sort of one part cow daycare center, one part cow old age home, and one part actual milk-giving cows. But in most of the rest of the world, the way that the dairy industry works is incredibly violent. Incredibly violent. Which is why people who are committed to nonviolence don't touch the milk. Because it's violent. So there's levels, and each of us has to choose for ourselves what's right for us. How far can I go before it becomes violent to myself? If you can live on air, fantastic. If you can live on fruit that has fallen from the trees without getting any vitamin or mineral deficiencies, fantastic. Most of us need a little more than that. Some vegetables, some nuts, some lentils, some grains. So we each have to walk in life the path of what's the least harm I can do. And the last piece of that is you can at least make sure that whatever you eat is organic. Because it doesn't change the harm to the vegetable, but it changes the harm to the land, to all of the bugs that live in the land, as well as to all of the people who are drinking the water. The land that your vegetables was grown in, that groundwater flows into rivers. So if we're dumping chemicals on our fields, that groundwater flows into rivers. Those rivers go downstream. They then flow into other farms. People drink them, people bathe in them. People get sick and die. This is what we call toxicity. Well, where does toxicity come from? From chemicals, from fertilizers, from pesticides. So at least you can insist on organic. If your local grocer doesn't carry them, make sure they do. Take a trip once a week, even if it's a little farther, to another grocery store, buy a week's worth of organic vegetables and come back. But insist on organic so that at least you're being non-violent, A, to your own bodies, because to give yourself diseases is not non-violent, not nice, and to contribute to the pollution of our soil and our water is also not nice. So that's what we can do now, and who knows, maybe in the future there'll be a gene mutation through which we'll be able to live on air. Wonderful. Any other questions? Wonderful. Yes, last question. Sure.
We are all souls, right? And we, in Hinduism, we offer Shraddha also to our ancestors, right? But at the same time, when we say that the soul leaves the body,
Yes.
it leaves all its relations, right? They are not connected to it.
Right.
Then when we offer Shraddha, it's been very confusing to me. Then does it really go to them? Because that soul has no connection with the people who were
Yes.
there. So how this should be analyzed, this situation?
So you have to realize that there's different levels of truth and reality. So she asked about a very traditional ceremony that is performed, Shraddha, which is offering prayers for our departed ancestors. There's a special puja, a special worship ceremony that is done for the departed ancestors. And so she said, if we're all soul, and when the soul leaves the body, there's no more connection, how is what I'm doing today going to my departed ancestors? So there's different levels of reality. On one level of reality, we're not even individual souls. There's just soul. One. Nothing but God. There's not you, there's not me. This entire distinction is an illusion. That's one level of reality. You could call that the highest level of reality. On the deepest, highest level, there is nothing but God. You turn the channel a little, like imagine a radio that simultaneously, there's different stations playing. You can turn, before you had an iPad or an change the songs, just the old type where you had to turn a dial. So you turn the dial and you have another station. So on that other station of reality, here we are in individual forms. The truth is our soul, but we have bodies. Those bodies carry with them karmic packages. Actually, it's not the body that carries it, it's the soul that comes in with it. But the full package has got a karmic package. The me in this life has a karmic package. And on that level, what we know is that when we die and the soul takes on another body, with the soul goes man and ahankar. That's the what travels with the soul on that level of existence. On the level of existence in which there are individual souls, rather than just capital S, soul, we are one, nothing but God. That travels with the soul from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, until its karmic package is worked out and it merges back into the Supreme Soul. When Jivatma merges back into Paramatma. Okay. On that level of reality, so on the first level of reality, who's offering what to whom? God offering God to God. So on the first level, yeah. The soul never was born, the soul never died, the soul never came, the soul never left, the soul still is here. Who's offering what to whom? But on this other level, that other channel, their soul is passing through lifetimes. Absolutely, maybe in a different body now, may have had 2 or 3 or 4 different bodies by now, but is still carrying with it its karmic package. And the puja that we do, it is believed, helps that soul regardless of which incarnation it's in. It's not helping the body's returned to ash. It's helping the soul on its journey, even though that journey may already be in another body by now. But also what's really important is the pujas for us. Puja Swamiji always emphasizes that the point of rituals, any ritual, whatever puja we're doing, isn't about the ritual itself, but it's about us becoming spiritual. And by offering to our ancestors, it makes us remember there's a lot of work that's gone into making me be here. Like, I'm carrying a lot with me. There's a lot of people, some of whom are alive, some of whom have passed away, who have really contributed in phenomenal ways to the fact that I am who I am, where I am right now. I don't exist in a vacuum. And that puja connects us back to them. Oh yeah. You know, there's actually very interesting studies being done. I have a penchant for science. For those of you who are new to satsang, you'll realize you only have to be here for a few nights before something comes out of my mouth about scientific studies, because I love it and it excites me to see where science and spirituality overlap, because they overlap so much. And there's recent studies coming out of the field of epigenetics, which talks about DNA memory and DNA trauma. And the idea, for example, that people are carrying trauma of their ancestors, even ancestors they never met. It would explain a lot in India, for example, about people who never existed under British rule, never were colonized, never were invaded by the Mughals, and yet who live their lives still very stuck, still not feeling free at all, still very much like the colonized people. There's a lot about the Jewish people, not people who actually were in the Holocaust, not people who actually were in a concentration camp. And we're not talking about reincarnation. It's not, oh yeah, I remember a past birth. But literally, trauma being transmitted through DNA, of actually having what they call ancestral trauma. And to me, what's so interesting about that, linking it with Shraddha and the pujas that we do for the ancestors, is on some level I'm carrying. Now obviously the soul doesn't have DNA, but when the soul inhabited the body, who gave birth to my other ancestors who ultimately I've come from. And remember, the soul chose that body. The karmic package of the soul put it in that body, gave it those experiences. And I'm carrying, on some level, DNA memory of what my ancestors experienced. And so this puja is also a way of helping me and helping them together be free of a lot of that trauma. Helps them move on their path as a soul, and helps me in this body still be free of that. Because a lot of the stuff we carry isn't necessarily ours, we're now discovering. That we may be carrying, whether you call it, ancestral trauma, whether we talk about a collective unconscious, regardless of, whose verbiage we're using. We're carrying stuff that isn't all about us. And if I can let that go, if through puja, if through ritual, I can become free of that, then whether it actually helps their soul in a new body or not, it's certainly helping my soul in my body. Yeah. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, and we'll see you all tomorrow.